Welcome to our tutorial on building virtual reality games in Java. In this video, we'll explore how to leverage Java's capabilities to create immersive 3D experiences. First, let's set the stage by discussing some essential concepts. Virtual reality, or VR, allows users to immerse themselves in a computer-generated environment. In this tutorial, we'll focus on using Java for VR development, emphasizing 3D gaming. We'll cover libraries and tools you'll need, getting started with basic setup, and coding our first VR application. To get started with VR development in Java, we'll need a few tools and libraries. The recommended library for this purpose is JMonkey Engine, which is a powerful game engine for developing 3D applications in Java. You'll also need an integrated development environment, or IDE, such as IntelliJ IDEA or Eclipse. Let's move on to the installation of JMonkey Engine. Visit the official JMonkey Engine website and download the latest version. Once downloaded, unzip the file to a directory of your choice. We'll also need to install the SDK, which is integrated with the JMonkey Engine for convenience. After downloading the SDK, open it and configure it to use the JMonkey Engine libraries. This can typically be done by pointing the SDK to the location where you extracted the JMonkey Engine. Now that we have our environment set up, let's create a new project in the JMonkey Engine SDK. Click on File, then on New Project. Select Basic Game from the project templates. Now, let's name our project My First VR Game and choose a proper location to save it. Click Finish, and our project will be created with a basic template code already set up for us. Next, let's understand the basic structure of the project. In the SRC directory, you'll find a main class that extends simple application. This class serves as the starting point for our game's logic. The simple init app method is where we'll configure our settings. You can customize the camera, set up the scene, and load 3D models here. All our customization will go inside this method. Let's initialize the scene with a basic ground object so that we have something to stand on when in VR. To do this, we'll create a simple box and attach it to our scene. Here's how to do that. Now that we have our basic box object in the game, let's see how our application runs so far. Click on the play button in the JMonkey Engine SDK. You should see a blue box in the center of the screen. To enhance our VR experience, we need to integrate a VR library. For this tutorial, we will use the JMonkey VR extension. Check the JMonkey Engine wiki for instructions on how to add this library to your project. Once you have the library set up, you'll need to make some changes to the main class. We'll set up the VR environment in the simple init app method. Next, we need to set up the VR controls and ensure that our scene responds to headset movements. We will implement VR controller to manage the movement and orientation. Let's dive deeper into configuring our camera for VR. We need to ensure our application renders the scene differently based on the VR headset's field of view. This is how you can change the camera settings. With these settings, we're making sure the camera is adjusted for VR. The next step is to add some interactive elements to our scene. Let's add a few more 3D objects and make them react to controller input. We can modify our simple init app to incorporate these changes. Let's build some controller interaction functionality. You can implement a method that triggers when the controller tracks a collision with an object. With this code, when the controller interacts with an object, it changes color. Feel free to explore further by adding different shapes or modifying colors and parameters. To allow for smooth transitions and movements, we need to enhance our rendering pipeline. By modifying animation settings, we can achieve better performance. Here's how you could implement smoother movements. Be sure to implement proper multi-threading techniques if required, as rendering heavy 3D objects can slow down your application. Always check for performance bottlenecks. Next, let's introduce sound effects to our game. In VR experiences, sound adds to immersion. Import a sound file and play it when a user interacts with objects. Here's an example of how to do this. Now we have added sound effects. You can find royalty-free sounds on various platforms, which will help you enhance the auditory experience of your game. Be mindful of licensing agreements when using external audio. At this point, let's save and run our project once more. If everything is set up correctly, you should see your square and sphere and be able to interact with them using your VR controller. Now, let's discuss optimizing our game. Performance optimization is crucial for any VR application. One effective way is to reduce the number of polygons in your 3D models. Use tools like Blender to create simpler versions of your models. Another optimization strategy is to utilize level of detail, LOD, for your 3D objects. By creating simpler meshes for objects that are farther away, you can save processing power without sacrificing visual quality. Virtual reality can also be demanding on the graphics card, so always ensure that your assets are low resolution while maintaining high visuals in necessary areas. Remember to test your application on different devices to ensure performance consistency. To wrap up our VR application development, let's build and package our project for deployment. This process can vary based on your target platform, but here's a brief overview. Make sure to test your application thoroughly before releasing it. A smooth experience is key for VR applications. Check for any glitches, ensure sound and visuals sync properly, and handle any edge cases or exceptions. Finally, we'll summarize what we've covered. We started with setting up JMonkey Engine, creating basic 3D objects, and integrating VR. We learned how to customize the environment, manage user inputs, and optimize performance. Thank you for joining this tutorial on building virtual reality games in Java. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe for more programming tutorials. Leave a comment if you have questions or need further clarification on any topic we covered.